There's no shortage of tower speakers competing for your attention, so what does a speaker like Monitor Audio's new Silver Series 507G tower need to do to make your listening room its forever home? Let's find out. The 507G is the largest tower speaker in the Silver Series. It is a true three-way design that features a 1-inch gold dome tweeter, a 3-inch mid-range driver, and two 8-inch bass drivers. When combined with the speaker's two rear-facing ports, the 500's three-way design is good for a reported frequency response of 27 Hz to 35 kHz. Sensitivity is stated at 90.5 dB with a nominal impedance of 8 ohms, though the speaker can dip to 4 ohms. So for best results, be sure to pair these towers with an amp or receiver capable of driving a 4 ohm speaker. The 500s in their ash finish are absolutely stunning. I adore the ash finish, as it is both modern and classic at the same time. You can get these in a variety of finishes, but for my money, ash is where it's at. Also, the shape of the 500's magnetic grills conjure up memories of another great speaker from back in the day, in the Soliloquy 5.3 towers, which I had, loved, and wish desperately they were still around. So kudos to Monitor Audio for absolutely nailing the visual style of this tower speaker. Well, until you get to the feet. The feet do provide for some added stability, but to me, they look like an afterthought. And in our brief testing, they didn't seem to impact the sound of the speaker, good or bad. So I took them off and I put them back in the box. The 500 isn't too difficult to integrate into a living space. Because it is a rear-ported speaker, it does need some room to breathe with respect to distance from your front wall. Too close to your front wall and bass may become overpowering, potentially even boomy. Too far away and the speaker may start to sound lean or overly forward. Maybe even a little bright. Thankfully, you don't need to upend your living room to make the 500 sound good. We found that pulling them out from the wall about a foot or so easily achieved best results. As for toe-in, Monitor Audio does recommend some toe-in, though feel free to experiment to taste. Now, as far as power goes, the Monitor speakers aren't incredibly difficult to drive, making them good matches for a wide range of amplifiers, integrated amplifiers, and even AV receivers. Just make sure that whatever you choose, it can drive a 4 ohm load for best results. We powered the 500 using the Audiolab 6000A Play, Audiolab Omnia, Macintosh 7200, Pioneer Elite 305, and our Onkyo RZ50, all of which did a great job. The Macintosh and 6000A Play unsurprisingly provided the best results, though I will admit the RZ50 did the bulk of the heavy lifting throughout this review and proved to be an enjoyable match with or without Dirac applied. So how do the new Monitor Silver Series sound? Well, if you're already a fan of the Monitor Audio brand or are an existing customer like we are, the 500s aren't likely going to come across as that different. Monitor Audio is known for its livelier dynamic sound with good bass impact coupled with a mildly more pronounced top end, and the new 500s are no different. So, new speaker, new sound? Not really. But a refinement of an already pretty great design? Absolutely. But let's break it down. Bass-wise, I initially thought the 500s were perhaps just a little light. Don't get me wrong, the 500s possess terrific snap at the point of attack, but I wondered if they weren't a little lacking in the weight department, especially for a tower speaker with dual 8-inch woofers. But a few nights ago, we were watching the series Yellowjackets on Showtime, and one of the scenes featured a low, rolling bass line that completely upended my criticisms of the 500's bass prowess, for those babies had some bass. Loads of it. Not only did the speaker dig deep, I'm talking way down in the basement, it did so without strain or distortion. While the 500's cabinet isn't without some minor resonances, especially around the woofers, the bass during this segment remained deep and taut without any overt cabinet coloration. So it would appear when it comes to its bass reproduction, the 500's is source material dependent, and when given a true low bass note, one perhaps intended for a sub, the Monitor Audio will tackle it. However, because this speaker favors agility over brute force throughout its frequency range, including in the bass, the 500's on the whole is going to have a little bit more of an immediate presence than one that is outright neutral, and this is true of the mid-range as well, where there is a slight but still noticeable rise in energy as you near the tweeter. In this regard, the 500s are not wholly unlike KLIPSCH, Focal, or Sonus Faber speakers. The mid-range is very clear and intelligible, but not one that I would classify as wholly neutral. If anything, it is a touch cool, or dare I say, lean. The best way to describe it, at least for me, is the difference in timbre between, say, a Steinway Concert Grand and a Yamaha. Both are excellent instruments. I know I'd be happy with either in my home, but the same or similar in overall tone? No. The 500 is more in line with the livelier, more dynamic Yamaha compared to the richer, darker sound of a Steinway. But it should be noted that no matter what we played through the 500s, they never became objectionable or worse, bad. If anything, they proved to be supremely listenable for long periods of time. But because of their more dynamic nature, they never completely faded away into the background, meaning, more often than not, even at low volumes, they would do something to capture my attention, even during casual or non-critical listening sessions. If you are at all a fan of jazz or contemporary piano tracks, the 500 should definitely be on your shortlist. Which brings us to the tweeter. The Gold Dome tweeter here is largely the same as the one found in our Monitor Audio Bronze Series speakers, albeit with a slightly new waveguide. The top end of the 500's performance is what I have come to expect from Monitor Audio: energetic, extended, and detailed, without treading into outright aggressive territory. Brass instruments really shine through the 500s, retaining all of their inherent sheen thanks to the speaker's tweeter. Now, the tweeter sound is a little bit more directional, at least to me, which results in a very focused type of sound. At high volumes, the tweeter is rather unflappable, possessing little to no grain, though its dispersion does appear to narrow as the volume increases. Which brings me to the speaker's soundstage. Now, for a tower speaker that orally disappears as well as the 500 does, it's not the best tower I've heard with respect to overall soundstage dispersion. Don't get me wrong, the 500 has good soundstage width and depth, but its center fill or center image isn't what I would call laser focused. It's a rather large or broad center, and if you sit or move off axis, it will travel. Toe-in helps in this regard, but locked in three-dimensional space, not so much. Now, obviously, if you use the 500s as part of a home theater setup, one with the dedicated center speaker like the C257G, the center image or presence is going to sure up. But on their own, with respect to center focus, the 500s are good, but not best in class. Dynamically, the 500s are no slouch. This is a lively, fun, and impactful speaker, as you might expect given its design and use of large aluminum woofers, not to mention its mildly more sensitive nature. Like I said earlier, this is not an overly difficult speaker to drive, and as such, what power you do feed it is put to good use, resulting in a more live and engaging presence. As far as drawbacks, I don't have many, for the speaker's tone is going to be a matter of personal taste. I suppose if you want to ensure that you're experiencing the deepest bass all of the time, a sub may be necessary. If you're a stickler for a truly transparent or three-dimensional center image, one that is absolutely laser etched, then perhaps the 500 isn't going to be the choice for you. But aside from all of that, this is just an incredibly enjoyable and well-rounded speaker, good for both music and movies. As for comparisons, I would honestly consider the 500s alongside costlier options like the Focal ARIA and ARIA K2s, or even the PSB Synchrony T600s. While I prefer the K2 sound to that of the 500, I would opt for the Monitor Audio towers over the Focal because visually, the 500s are just more my jam, and I'm not opposed to saving money. So, while I will admit the Focals are better, they are not twice as good. As for the PSBs, I would buy the Monitor Audio towers over the T600 any day of the week, because for me, the PSBs just proved to be a little bit more finicky, which resulted in having to invest just a little bit more in your rig to get to the promised land, whereas the Monitor Audios, they kind of play nice with a really wide range of gear. Now, shifting our focus to less expensive options like the KLIPSCH 8000F, Focal CHORA 826, or maybe even the MAGNAT TRANSPULS. The Silver Series and the KLIPSCH 8000F have a lot in common, even if the 8000Fs lack a dedicated mid-range driver. Both are dynamic, live-sounding speakers with a tone that pairs well with a lot of different genres of music and movies. The 500s are finished to a higher standard and are smaller in terms of their footprint, which may be a difference maker for some of you. I prefer the look of the 500s, and if money wasn't a factor, because the 500s are more expensive, I would buy them over the 8000Fs on looks alone. That said, I could be equally happy with each based solely on their sound quality. As for the CHORA 826, this is a little bit more of an apples-to-apples comparison. The CHORA is better with respect to soundstage definition and focus, but aside from that, these two speakers are very comparable. I prefer the fit and finish of the Silver series, especially in its ash finish, but in terms of overall sound quality, this would likely come down to a coin toss as to which I prefer. Now, with respect to the TRANSPULS, the monitor audio speaker is simply built better and to a higher degree of finish. That said, I personally prefer the sound of the TRANSPULS overall. It is a more neutral sound while still being engaging. Plus, for 1/3 the price, the TRANSPULS is simply a greater value without giving up much sonically to the costlier 500. But you're probably curious if the Silver series is a worthwhile upgrade to Monitor Audio's own Bronze series. While we do not have the Bronze 500 towers, I can say when comparing the bookshelf speakers to each other, that's right, I'm not quite done with the Silver series yet, there isn't a night and day difference between the series, at least not sonically. The Silver series monsters the Bronze with respect to build quality and materials. I mean, it's not even remotely close. Yes, the Bronze series is nice for the money, but it looks downright cheap next to the new Silver series. So if you're looking for a classy, high-end looking speaker with sound quality to match, I would consider the Silver series over the Bronze, even if a large portion of your money is going towards looks rather than outright sound improvements. I started this review by asking, what does a speaker need to do to be welcomed into your home? Sound quality is important, no question, and in that respect, the new Silver series from Monitor Audio is no slouch, more than holding its own against costlier competition. But beyond sound quality, the 500s in their ash finish may get my vote and even my money because they're among the classiest looking tower speakers we've had in our home to date. While they may not be the best speakers I have heard or even own, visually, they fit my vibe in a way few speakers over the years have managed. I know my conclusion may cause some of you to roll your eyes and shake your head in audiophile disgust, but at the end of the day, a speaker or just any hi-fi product that you don't mind having out on display is one that is more likely to be used and enjoyed. And when looking at the Silver series from that angle, the 500s are absolute knockouts. So that's it. That is now my review of Monitor Audio's new Silver Series 500 towers. But now it's time to find out what Kristi thought of them.
I really like them.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
They're gorgeous. Mm-hmm. They really are some of the nicest speakers I think we've ever had in our space. I love like you said, the ash finish is almost perfection. And I really like the combination of the wood grain with like the gray colored woofers, and then that gold bronze looking tweeter.
Yeah, the gold dome tweeter.
That is sort of
just kind of pokes through.
It's really
it's a nice
subtle.
Touch. Yeah.
But oh my gosh, it's like whoever is in your, design department at Monitor Audio. I mean, like, I'm so impressed by the way this thing looks.
Yeah.
That said, I am with you. The difference between these and the Bronze series is really subtle.
Yeah.
Unless we're talking about looks, which I've already mentioned, and then it's no contest. I'd say that these are more the Silvers. I think they're a little bit more refined, but they're still fun, and they make really great home theater speakers.
They do.
So
they really do.
For somebody who values design and doesn't plan to hide speakers behind a wall, I think that these are a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I thought intelligibility was really good, and that included just listening to them in two channel or with the center speaker. But beyond that, I think there are two speakers that I have a feeling people are going to ask about.
Oh no, what did I forget?
Yeah, it's fine. This is why I'm here. So for those of you who are still with us, you're welcome. First, how would you say that these compare to the KEF towers that we just recently reviewed? And because I'm confident that at least one person is going to ask, what about the older Concept 500s?
Okay. All right. I'll start with the KEF. The KEF are smaller in stature. That doesn't necessarily mean smaller in sound, but they are physically a little bit less imposing compared to the 500s. They are going to be slightly more affordable. That said, the finish, the veneer on the KEF is, I believe, vinyl, whereas the Monitor Audio is a wood veneer. And it shows. It shows. We actually did have these both really briefly at the same time, not long enough that I was able to put them side by side, but I was having to send the KEFs out as the monitor audios were coming in. And in that just exchange, you find out that the KEF, the finish kind of feels like a sticker, if you will, like a print, whereas, the monitor audio feels like the real thing. Sound-wise, the KEFs are more neutral, a little bit more subdued. Not quite as dynamic, not quite as lively or fun as the monitor audio. And that would be my critique of those.
But maybe spatially they were a little bit better.
The KEFs have a better center image. I will say that they lock in a lot better than the monitor audios, at least in our testing or in our experience or my experience. You asked about the towers. I will say, the KEF center that matches the towers that we reviewed and we showed on the channel, I think is a better fit for those speakers. Whereas I kind of think that the center speaker for the monitor series is not quite large enough to pair with the 500s. And unfortunately, the 250, I believe, is the only center at this moment that is in the Silver series. So if you're going one step down from the 500s, the center's a no-brainer. But for me, I found that I was kind of feathering the center's presence in with the towers because the driver complement is just a little bit smaller than what you get with the towers. And so I would have liked a bigger center. It's not a deal breaker. It's not a deal breaker by any stretch. But that would be, if you're looking at building a multi-channel setup, a home theater setup around a speaker series, I do think the KEF center is probably just a hair better. But overall, sound, dynamic, liveliness, all of that, I like the monitor audio sound a little bit more than the kind of composed, controlled sound of the KEF. Now, with respect to Concept 500, I'll take the monitor audio on size and looks all day. Nothing against the Concept 500. I think that is a remarkably capable speaker. I just really did not like the bass of that speaker. It reminded me of a bowl, like a pet water and food dish. Not to mention it would just attract dust like crazy, and it's not optional. It's not something you can leave off. I'm not a big fan of these automotive finishes. I'm starting to move away from that. So the Concept 500 loses me there. Sonically, the Concept 500 is a far more neutral speaker, totally unoffensive. So if you value absolute neutrality, almost zero color being injected by the speaker itself, the 500 is the absolute no-brainer pick. It just is. But if you are, like I said, if you're kind of into that little upper mid-range, into the treble energy that provides for a little bit greater intelligibility for you, or that's just kind of your jam, the monitor audio, no question.
Awesome.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, how'd I do?
You did great.
Awesome.
I'm so proud of you.
I like to hear that. So anyway, that is now our review of Monitor Audio's new Silver Series 500 7G towers. I mean, that is not a good name. Anyway.
I don't really quite understand the 7G, but
yeah,
what that might mean, but
go on the website. They tell you. Anyway, that is our review. So let us know what you think down in the comments below. And while you're down there, I have a question of the day for you. And this one, I like this one. I'm curious what you guys think. How much of a premium do you put on build quality in finishes? And would either of these things be enough for you to upgrade? So for example, would you upgrade to the Monitor Audio Silver Series based purely on looks and finish options alone? Because it is an upgrade over bronze, and it's even an upgrade over the prior Silver Series, because I had those back in my print days. So I'm curious, would looks and finish be enough to get you to buy a new pair of speakers? Let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Go ahead and ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out. If you use any of the links that Kristi left for you down below, know that is a great way that you have continued to show your support for this channel and the work that we do here, and we both thank you very much for doing that. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, and that is it for us today. Another review in the books. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you real soon on the next video. Bye.